Well, it's not looking good for the British economy at the moment. I guess for the world economy to some degree, I don't even think it's extreme. Uh, Oil prices, they're saying it went up about 25%. But when you compare it to previous wars, from the Gulf War, I think even in the war with Iraq, they had spikes of 75% to over 100%. So it's actually significantly lower than historic wars that have been fought in the Middle East, which I would consider this a conflict. There's a lot of reasons for that. Uh, the U.S. doesn't need Middle Eastern oil like it did in the 90s and the 90s. The U.S. exports oil. I think the number one exporter, correct me if I'm wrong, to Europe when it comes to oil is the U.S. Uh, there's just more diversity and investment when it comes to oil usage. And remember, the removal of Maduro in Venezuela also helps because they're looking to target opening those oil markets, as far as I know, and get that going. There is the Strait of Hormuz, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, where people are saying, "Oh, it's being blockaded." It's not because the Navy's been eliminated, the Iranian Navy, and Iran said they're not blocking it, and the U.S. said it's not being blocked. And in fact, the U.S. is escorting ships. If the ships aren't going through that strait, it's because they don't want to take the risk. So a 25% increase is actually not as dramatic as the media is making it sound today. But you see, the difference between today and the 90s and the 90s is everybody has access to information from their phones to the TV, to tablets to laptops. You can get information instantly. Whereas 20 years ago, not the case. 30 years ago, definitely not the case. So we do have this level of exaggeration these days because of the time we live in. Thankfully, the West isn't turning off the internet like some regimes did not so long ago. So we actually have access to this information. Uh, what more can I say? It's being dramatized. It's not an. It is a legitimate concern. It is a legitimate criticism. I'm not knocking that. However, I don't think it's going to have the same impact as the Gulf War and wars 20, 30 years ago. You'll see, we're having a little bit of a flashback with that when we're seeing that in the news. So, relatively, it's not that extreme. I think this is all temporary. I think this conflict will soon be over. I could be wrong. I welcome the critics always. I could be absolutely wrong. Most people that do comment say that. Um, but I like that. I mean, at least you're watching me. You know what I'm saying? You're engaged with what I'm saying. I believe there must be some elements of it's hitting a nerve somewhere. Because my takes aren't, I wouldn't say I'm the most informed, but a lot of times when people comment, they're less informed than I am. I'm actually surprised how ill informed some of the people are in the comments. Not everybody, just a few. Because I think I'm still learning and don't know a lot, but then I hear some of the things people write, and I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know nothing. Sorry, that's funny to me, but that's my reaction to this stuff. In the end, in my lifetime, I never thought I would hear that the dictatorship would be removed in Venezuela. I never thought I would hear the Iranian regime is potentially about to be toppled. I've always heard they've always said death to America and death to Israel, and no, everyone has been a president or leader in the U.S. said something needs to be done about it. They're a genuine threat. Thousands of Americans have died indirectly by this sphere of influence. Every president from Bush, Clinton, Obama all said they're a major problem. And now today they're acting like, oh, they weren't really bothering nobody. They did. Come on, they say death to America, death to Israel. Come on, bro. How, really? Stop playing, man. Stop it. The U.S. what if the U.S. said that about anybody? People will be losing their minds. People lost their minds at the thought of U.S. in taking over Greenland if we put true boots on the ground to do it. So imagine if the U.S. said that about any country. Come on, bro. Y'all trip. Not true. Anyway, it's always a pleasure. Y'all take care.